This is the all-new Coros Pace 4, and these are all the other watches that I've been testing over the past couple of years. And today I'm talking about which watch is the best. Spoiler alert, it's a trick question. So let's lock in that GPS and take the Coros Pace 4 for a run. Yo, what's going on? My name is Kofuzi and I'm a non-elite runner who reviews running things here on YouTube. And today I'm talking to you guys all about the Coros Pace 4. But before I give you my thoughts on this GPS running watch, I do want to go over some disclosures. All the watches that I'm going to talk to you guys about today were provided to me for the purpose of review, so I didn't have to pay for these watches, and some of them do have to be returned after my review period is over. So no one is paying me to make this video or to include their watch in this video, and no one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Coros Pace 4. And for this broad comparison video, I'm going to jump right to the buying guide. The Coros Pace 4 is an excellent running watch that is robust enough for just about any road runner. I love the new updated screen as it fixes one of the two main problems that I had with the Coros Pace 3. And at $250, I think that is an excellent price. But what I think is the best watch of all the watches that I've tested over the past few years is really going to depend on what you specifically need. So in other words, I don't think that there is a best watch. I think there is a best watch for you. Let's take a look at all these other watches that I've been testing and we'll answer what I think are going to be some of the most commonly asked questions. The first question that I think everyone's going to ask is about the Coros Pace 3 and should I upgrade? And for those of you who already have the Pace 3, I'm going to tell you guys, you don't need to go out and buy a Pace 4 to upgrade. These two watches are substantially the same, the only main difference between them being the different screen technology. And while I do really love the new screen, I don't think that it's necessary for you to scrap your old Pace 3 to run out and get another Pace 4. If, however, you have neither the Pace 3 or the Pace 4, let's say you have no GPS running watch at all, I'd say go with the Pace 3 because that's going to be for sale at $200. So saving you 25%, it's $50 cheaper. And I think that's going to be a really great first watch for you to have. But keep in mind, for those of you who are bargain hunting, the Pace 3 at $200 is only going to be available while supplies last. That's what Coros tells me. They're not making more Pace 3s. They're just getting rid of the inventory. But let's say you do have a Pace 3 and you are itching to upgrade to something. What should you do in that situation? Well, in that case, I think you should upgrade to the Pace Pro. And actually, this is my favorite of the Pace series. Now, in terms of the chronology, there was first the Pace 3, then the Pace Pro came out, and then relatively quickly after that, we got the Pace 4. Now, the reason why I think that the Pace Pro is the best of the bunch is because it has that new bright screen technology, and it's also a little bit bigger of a watch face. And I just like a little bit bigger of a watch. It is also a little bit heavier, so some of you might not like that, some of you might. Personally, maybe I'm idiosyncratic, but I prefer for my watches to be a little bit heftier. I like to be able to kind of feel the watch on my wrist. I like the feeling of the watch. And so I prefer the bigger size, the slightly heavier weight, and the bigger screen and that beautiful bright AMOLED display. So I think that the Pace Pro is the best of the bunch. So if you have the Pace 3, that's the watch that you really should be upgrading to. And that watch is also the most expensive, coming in at $299, which I think is still a very good price for what you're getting. Now, some of you might be asking, well, what about that other watch that Coros released this year? And that was the Apex 4. This one is the most expensive of the Coros watches that I'm going to talk about today, coming in at $479. And it's also a very different kind of watch. The core intended user for the Apex is very different than the core intended user of the Pace, and vice versa. So if you've been looking at Pace watches, you don't really have to think too much about the Apex because it's not for you. The Apex is for mountain trail running. there's a different button, an extra button that's on this watch. They also have that extra mapping button on the Pace 4 as well, but it first was originated on the Apex 4, and that's so you could quickly switch from your data screens to a mapping screen. This watch also has downloadable offline maps, but it also has an epically long battery. It uses some older screen technology to get there. It's not quite as pretty of a screen to look at as you're seeing in the Pace Pro or in the Pace 4. But if your race lasts longer than 24 hours, let's say you are running a 100-mile ultra marathon race and you want to make sure that you're GPS tracking the entire time, the Apex 4 can take you well past 24 hours of continuous GPS tracking. And there's an endurance mode as well. So if you are in a multiple day event, then the Apex 4 is the kind of watch that you are looking for. So unless you are running those really long races, I don't really think that the Apex 4 is for you. Although I will say that it is an absolute pleasure to be able to wear this watch. Now, while we're on the topic of expensive watches, I think this is a good time to talk about the Apple Watch, and specifically, I've been testing the Apple Watch Ultra version 2. Now, I know we're on Apple Watch Ultra version 3 right now, but let's talk about the 2 specifically because it has a price point now of $599 if you're getting the cellular version, and I think the cellular version is very important, at least for how I use an Apple Watch. Now, in terms of recording the run, it can do a pretty good job, but I generally don't like the idea of using an Apple Watch for being my primary GPS run watch or run activity tracker. And that's because it's a touch-first interface. And especially in the wintertime when I have long sleeves that might get a little bit damp on the inside when I'm sweating and then touch the face of the watch and cause some accidental presses, or when I'm trying to intentionally press it, but I might have gloves or mittens on, having a touch-first interface is, for me, not ideal. Plus, I use the Apple Watch on my runs for lots of other things. I like to be able to have a cellular plan put onto my Apple Watch and then use that as a phone replacement. So that way, I don't have to worry about carrying a phone with me. Instead, I can wear an Apple Watch and a regular GPS tracking watch at the same time, but because it has the cellular capability, not only can I use it in case of emergency, like if I need to text my wife, maybe I've fallen and hurt myself and I need her to pick me up, or maybe someone needs to get into contact with me, I'm always going to be available just like I would be if I had my phone, but I don't have to carry my large, gigantic phone with me on my run. Now that things are getting colder in the wintertime, it's not as big of a problem, but over the summer where I'm trying to wear as little as possible and not have to put on a full-on vest if I don't have to do that, having the watch as a phone replacement has been really useful to me. Plus, it lets me then handle music streaming, audiobooks, podcast streaming, all that stuff that I want to do while I'm running, the things that I want to listen to can get handled really well by that device. And I let all that, my comms and my entertainment, happen on the Apple Watch while the running gets controlled on the running watch. And then I leave those two on separate devices. It's not the cheapest way to run, but it's something that I've done, whether it's using an Apple Watch Ultra 2 or using the cheapest Apple Watch, like an Apple Watch SE with a cellular plan, that can also get the job done as well. Now, the last watch that I want to talk to you guys about today is a watch that I think solves all the problems that I had with the Pace 3. I mentioned the Pace 4 solves one of two problems. That's with the more pretty screen. But the Garmin Forerunner 265 does that, and it also solves the other problem that I have with Coros, and that's pace lag. Now, something that I've noticed when I'm doing workouts with my running watches is that there is a little bit of a lag from the time that, let's say, I'm walking or jogging lightly as a recovery in between repetitions, and then I start running hard again. There's a lag between when the watch kind of picks up that pace change. For most watches, I feel like it's about 5 seconds between when you've made a drastic change in pace and when the watch kind of shows that to you. For Coros, I feel like that lag is a little bit longer, like 13 to 15 seconds. And so I find that to be a little bit disorienting. If you've only run in Coros watches before, you probably haven't even noticed that happening to you. And so it's probably not going to be a big deal. It is a bit of a big deal for me, and I don't won't find that to happen on the Garmin Forerunner 265, which also has an AMOLED display and it has a touchscreen, but it is a button first interface. So there's tons of buttons on this, so I never have to worry about accidental presses because everything is kind of dictated by tactile buttons that I could feel even through thick winter running mittens. Now, I did have an issue with this watch when it came to the band of it breaking moments before I started my Sydney Marathon, but that's because I've been using aftermarket, very cheap aftermarket bands on this, so it's not a Garmin problem, that's a me problem. But this has been a really fantastic watch for me to run with, and it has a beautiful AMOLED display as well. And for the longest time, I really wasn't recommending this watch because it was at like a $450 MSRP for this watch, and I felt like for what it's doing and what I as a road marathoner wanted to get out of it, kind of felt like a little bit of a splurge to pay that much money for the running watch. But now that watch has been around for a little while and it's at a discount of $299, the same price as the Pace Pro, which is about the same size and has the same type of screen in it. And so I feel like that $299 price point is excellent for the Forerunner 265. If you are wanting to save a little bit of money, or if you want just a lighter, more minimalist watch, then I'd say go with the Pace 4 at $250. Those are the two most recommendable watches that I think are gonna work well for the most amount of people, but there could be a reason why one or the other of the watches that I've talked about today may be the best watch for you. So hopefully between all the watches that I've talked about today, you can find something that really suits you, or maybe ideally, the watch you already have ends up being the best watch for you, and you don't have to spend any extra money at all. If you have any questions about the Pace 4 or any of the watches that I talked about today, feel free to put them on in the comments down below, or better yet, stop by the live stream that I do Mondays and Thursdays over on the Kofuzi Run Club channel. I'd love to talk to you guys over there in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?